Even if you've lived under a rock for the last year, you've no doubt heard at least a little bit about the story we're talking about today. The 22-year-old Gabby Petito missing person case ended with the worst possible outcome. Gabby Petito and her fiance, Brian Laundrie, planned a 4-month-long trip. After many months of saving money, putting all their affairs in order, and preparing their dream camping van, they were ready to set off in July of 2021. The cross-country trip started as expected, with many beautiful pictures and videos documenting the journey posted. However, in the last days of August, Gabby, a previously frequent Instagram user, went silent forever. Brian came back home alone at the beginning of September and remained tight-lipped about Gabby's whereabouts. Unlike some old true crime cases from the 20th century, with Netflix documentaries and grainy interviews, this case unfolded right in front of our eyes. It was all over the TV news, TikTok video speculations, Instagram posts. It seemed like everyone was searching for the van life blogger. Everyone had access to clues, and many social media users were attempting to solve the case and bring Gabby home. Welcome to 10-Minute Murder, brief and bingeable true crime. My name is Joe, the host, and thanks for joining. And along with the requests for episode stories that I get for this podcast, I also get requests from some of you listening to talk about myself more. I'm usually reluctant to do that, but I will share a couple of things that I realized about myself this week. I guess when you get to be a certain age, petty things that get under your skin are harder and harder to ignore. I'm starting to understand the old man, get off my lawn mentality a little bit more. So first, I overheard someone say supposedly multiple times in a conversation, and this was minor, but it's still worth noting. That got to me. Also, I realized that I cannot watch people eat very spicy things when they are pretending that it's not spicy. They act like it's no big deal. Who are you flexing on? We see your eyes watering and your nose running. Your face is red. Come on now. So there's an insight into things that I realized about myself this week. You're welcome. Before we get going with the story today, this is your reminder to subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts and connect with 10-Minute Murder on social media. Links are in the show notes of this episode as well as at 10minutemurder.com. Now to the story. Gabby Petito was born on March 19, 1999, in New York. She was raised along with her 6 siblings. Gabby met Brian Laundrie in high school around 2017, and they began to date in March of 2019, and she moved in with him and his parents in Northport, Florida. In March of 2020, she celebrated her 21st birthday, and the two became engaged just 3 months later. Gabby was a lover of art, yoga, and vegetables, known to be very active on social media, especially Instagram. Gabby, along with Brian, fulfilled their dream of changing their parents' cozy home for a van life wanderlust. They planned to pursue their dreams on a journey across the United States and document this trip on social media. Their adventure began on July 2nd, 2021, and the couple was supposed to be gone for 4 months. They departed in the white Ford Transit Connect van from New York about 3 weeks after Gabby's brother's graduation ceremony. They planned to document national parks across the United States while sleeping in their van. That same month, they visited Monument Rocks, Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve, Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon National Park, Mystic Hot Springs, and Canyonlands National Park. Brian constantly told Gabby that her travel blog would never work, it would never succeed, and he wasn't fond of her following her dreams and being happy about it. Brian could lose his temper for various reasons, like Gabby working on her website when he wanted to go hiking. He didn't like it when her focus wasn't 100% on him. She'd already left her job before to spend her entire time with him, but that didn't seem to be enough. Gabby finally had this. She had something. And something that she loved and that was her own. But this something was out of Brian's control, and it possibly made him violent. He also punished her for the attention and joy that she received from her followers. On August 12, 2021, Utah police received information about an incident regarding Gabby and Brian. Someone called 911 and reported seeing a man slapping his girlfriend. From the police perspective, Moab City police officer Daniel Robbins pulled over a speeding white van on the road in Utah. Once the male driver stopped, the officer noticed a young female passenger in tears. The driver, who turned out to be Brian, explained that they were on a cross-country road trip and that the girl beside him was Gabby Petito, his fiance. When body camera footage captured by the police officer was released to the public, some people believed that Gabby suffered from mental illness, and they felt sorry for Brian, who seemed to keep it together despite having a girlfriend going through a complete nervous breakdown. The police mistook Gabby's distressed behavior as a sign of her being the primary aggressor, and that Brian was the victim. One officer later said, quote, "At no point did Gabrielle stop crying, breathing heavily, or compose a sentence without needing to wipe away her tears." Officers decided that it was a mental health crisis fueled by Gabby's OCD, rather than a domestic violence incident. They thought that Gabby was suffering from her own self-generated drama, and they comforted the charming man by saying cliché stuff like, quote, "She seems a lot like my wife," and "Women are so emotional." I think it's important here to stress the absolute lack of compassion displayed. The officers who were present at the scene after the couple's fight, which indicated domestic violence, laughed at Gabby's reactions, joining Brian in jokes about crazy women. Gabby was clearly in a huge emotional distress caused by her boyfriend, but Brian immediately had the officer's side. Owing to his nonchalant demeanor, he planted a belief in the officer's head that Gabby was indeed crazy, as he paints her as an unstable partner. Clearly, they didn't recognize the dynamic of the situation, which later enabled an escalation of abuse leading to her death. Again, they were responding to a call about a man slapping a woman, but they pretty quickly went from treating her gently to laughing with Brian and joking about Gabby's mental health episode. The body camera footage clearly showed many red flags indicating what could be coming. The police officer thought that the couple simply got into a heated fight after spending too much time together in such a small space, and suggested that they spend the night separately. Brian checked into a hotel and Gabby stayed in the van. On August 25th, Gabby published her last ever post on Instagram. On August 27th, Petito's mother received a weird message from Gabby. Quote, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." It seemed a bit out of place because Stan is her grandfather's name, and by the way, who calls their grandfather by their first name? Gabby's mom started to feel concerned. This message was followed by some other weird texts as well. On September 1st, Brian returned to his Northport home in Florida by himself. 10 days later, Gabby's mother filed a missing persons report at the New York Police Department due to the lack of contact with her daughter since late August. As Brian was cooperating neither with Gabby's family nor the authorities, he was named as a person of interest. On September 19th, a body was found close to the last known location of their van. A coroner confirmed that it was Gabby Petito, and that without any doubt, she was murdered, leading to an arrest warrant for Brian. Investigators found that she had been strangled with bare hands. Around her head and neck, there were also traces of blunt force blows. According to the coroner, Petito's body was left outside for 3 to 4 weeks before being found. Then Brian Laundrie went missing. On October 20th, during the search for Brian, authorities found what appeared to be human remains along with personal items nearby, including a backpack and a notebook. The next day, the weeks-long manhunt for Laundrie was finished, as the FBI confirmed through dental records that the corpse found in a Florida nature reserve indeed belonged to Brian. He took his own life by shooting himself in the head. On January 21st, the FBI announced that Brian claimed responsibility for Gabby's death. In a written confession in his notebook, he stated, "I ended her life." The FBI also confirmed that Brian tried to defraud law enforcement by giving the impression that Gabby was still alive, and that he sent out a string of text messages from both phones. Also, Brian used Gabby's debit card when he traveled alone from Wyoming to his parents' Florida home after he murdered her. In March of 2022, Gabby's parents filed a lawsuit against Brian's parents, stating that his parents knew perfectly well that their daughter and Brian's fiance, of about a year at that time, was dead, and that they already knew it back in August or early September. Brian's parents filed to dismiss the lawsuit on the grounds that it was baseless and frivolous. On August 8th of 2022, Petito's family filed a $50 million lawsuit against Utah police, accusing them of wrongful death, saying that Petito's death was caused by their wrongful acts or neglect, as they didn't recognize the obvious red flags of a toxic relationship displayed on the body cam footage, and they left a hyperventilating Gabby at the mercy of her abuser. Even though law enforcement officials declared that both Petito and Laundrie are dead, many people interested in the case believe that Brian Laundrie is still alive and at large. On December 30th, one girl tweeted, "Just wanted to let everyone know I saw Brian Laundrie today. That's all." And that information was followed by many different pictures and videos of a man who looked very similar to Laundrie. The alleged clips show a tall, white, bearded male running down a street in Florida, fueling rumors and going viral. Nevertheless, he remains officially deceased up until this day. An American blogger who went by the nickname Gabby Petito set off on a dream trip in her camper van with her partner in July last year and never came back. Her story has seemingly captivated a whole world. Law enforcement agencies across the country were involved, as well as investigation carried out by amateur detectives. One of the TikTok witnesses actually tipped the FBI off to the right place where they found Petito's body, as she saw a slow-moving white van and a generic young white man acting weird near the Spread Creek dispersed camping area around the alleged day of Gabby's death. The case blew up on a global scale, starting important debates about whether the story would be so widely covered if she wasn't a young, white, pretty girl from Long Island. Although Gabby's tragic last days and death devastated so many, her legacy persists. In order to support other victims of toxic and violent relationships, the Gabby Petito Foundation has collaborated with the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Please remember to always check on your friends if you suspect any kind of abuse, even if their social media accounts are flooded with over-the-top happiness. Sometimes they may be smiling through the pain, and they try to conceal their struggles with fabricated joys and face-tuned smiles.